I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, May the 24th. Brought to you by Cargill Fescue EMT. Tall fescue, a dream to grow, but for cattle it can be a nightmare. Fescue EMT is a new mineral defense with end-of-fight management technology, research proven and backed by the expertise of Cargill Animal Nutrition. It's uniquely designed to help defend cattle against the challenges of grazing end-of-fight infected fescue while improving growth and overall performance. Make sure your cattle are prepared for the threat. Learn more at fescueemt.com. Fourth, there's signs of life in the cattle market late in the week. It's about time. We've been on a nearly a month wreck here. We've seen several signs of life here through the week, especially late in the week. Finally, on Thursday, we saw the board having pluses on all the nearbys, both fats and feeders. We saw maybe some life and some late trade in the fat cattle arena, even though it was some lower. And then we've seen several feeder cattle markets that were higher and some very impressive quotes on some. And box beef cutouts seeming to find some footing there late in the week. So some reasons to be positive. We've got the cattle on feed report, which you guys know I hate those things because it's just an opportunity to wreck the market. But they do have the placements jacked up there really high. So even though they're a lot heavier, that's figured into the market. We do have a chance to come in near that or below it, which could be a positive. But was up in Valentine, Nebraska on Thursday at the Sand Hill Cattle Association's convention. Spoke there on Thursday afternoon and then made her all the way back down here to Canyon, Texas. Kind of a long day, but I tell you what, rained on me all the way home and all the way up into the Sand Hills of Nebraska, coming down then all the way down through western Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, the Texas Panhandle. All of it's just a rainforest, tropical rainforest, and water standing in the pastures, both plowed and grass pastures, all the way down through there. But this picture I'm showing you there is in the Sand Hills of Nebraska, right there just outside of Valentine. You can see how wet it is, but those cows don't seem to mind it too bad, especially after the winter they had. But look at the board on Thursday. June live cattle futures up 15 cents at 110.80. August up 20 at 108.15. May feeder cattle up 15 cents at 135.60, and August up 42 cents at 143.02. Your fat cattle trade. I said we had something positive on your fat cattle trade. About the only thing was that western Nebraska and Colorado out there on the western side of the northern plains, they sold at 116 for the most part, and that's the best bulk trade that we've seen in any area really on live cattle. So that wasn't too bad. That was only $1 lower than last week, and a little better than where the southern plains sold, and a little better than where eastern Nebraska sold those that sold on a live basis. So I know it was a slight positive, but still wasn't the worst in the world. Also heard that we had some long strings of cattle that sold for 116 through June. So that's a rumor, but if that happened, if they sold some cattle for 116 through June, that could be a positive that maybe we've hit a bottom here and we're getting into a new month. Packers are going to want to really crank things up because they're getting into the unofficial start of summer, and we're not sure how many cattle they have. We know there's a lot of cattle going to be hitting the show list and going to be market ready towards the mid part of the summer, but that's not early summer. We had a little bit more cleanup trade in Iowa, about 3,400 head, live from 115 to 118, dressed 184 to 186. We had a little more cleanup trade in Kansas, steady with the middle part of the week from 114 to 115, which is $2 to $3 lower than last week. And a little bit more in Texas also on Thursday at 115. Goes to show the Packers are still in the market wanting to purchase cattle, or else they would have just shut things down after they did their Wednesday trade. We do have a dang E. coli recall. Just as we're getting into a holiday weekend, it's going to be well publicized. It's not good for anybody, but about 62,000 pounds and it's the good stuff too. The steaks and ribeyes, a lot of different cuts out of a processing facility in Aurora, Illinois. But that is not good press as we're entering Memorial Day weekend. But also we saw some news come out late this week that some pretty well publicized analysts say that the fake meat industry could become as big as $140 billion within the next 10 years and take as much as 10% of our meat industry, a real meat industry. But that's not much fun to talk about, but it's definitely out there, guys, and I guess if we're not going to fight it, we'd better get used to it. But let's talk about box beef cutout values. I told you they found some footing on Thursday afternoon. Choice cuts closed at $220.79, up $1.04. Selects up 72 cents at $206.53. That's a spread, choice select spread of just over 14 1/4 there. Your slaughter has not quite kept up. 477,000 through Thursday. That's 7,000 less than last week. Just 4,000 less than the same week a year ago. We're not really sure. We need to catch up on Saturday, but being a holiday weekend, maybe they will put in a big Saturday since most everybody will be closed on Monday. So we're hoping for a big Saturday there. But your actual information that come back from the week ending May 11th had your dressed steer weights at 852 pounds, which was steady with the previous report. So we hope that those back off a little bit more. But let's look at some of your feeder cattle markets. Actually, let's talk about the cattle on feed report that's going to come out here on Friday. We knew the April placements were going to be big. We've been talking about that for the last couple of, ever since it happened in April. They were sending a lot of cattle in there, and then we even knew it was going to happen before it happened. But you look at your May 1st inventories, cattle on feed, 102.9. So if it's less than that, that would be a positive. If it's more than that, we're going to struggle. Your placements is the big number, and that is very volatile. But your average of analyst guests have it cranked all the way up to 113.5% of the same time a year ago. So we're hoping that it comes in less than that. If it comes in anywhere near that, it should be kind of neutral. But good marketings for the month of April at 106.6% of a year ago. Look at some of your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index was sharply higher, mainly because of the big special they had at Mocan Livestock Market in Butler, Missouri. I tell you what, they had a special there. You remember I told you that Jim Herzog had 4 world champion auctioneers come in there. They had some long strings of cattle, and the biggest sale that they've had at Mocan for recent memory. But he's really putting the push on now. I tell you what, his boys are coming of age there, and they've got families. There's a lot of mouths to feed around there, and they are really putting the push on. They've added on to that sale. They've always had a real nice facility there, but they are growing and really becoming a competitor right there on that Missouri-Kansas line, and good for them. They've been there for a long time. But let's look at some of your markets. Pratt, Kansas, 1,700 head. Feeder steers $4 to $6 higher. Feeder heifers unevenly steady, but higher. That's a good thing when you see that. Mitchell, South Dakota, 2,400 head there. The market was very uneven. It was lower on some big fleshy steers, higher on some heifers, kind of hard to tell. But it's just been so wet everywhere that they haven't had a good test of the market. And same happened with Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina. So wet up there, they haven't had a good sale, and then had kind of a light run this week. It's just hard to really tell what the market was doing. But let's talk about that big special, that Spring Classic at Mocan Livestock in Butler, Missouri. They had just a whale of a sale there. 13 pot loads of light 7-weight steers, all coming off of that the late Roy Akers Ranch, Clinton, Missouri. There, been running out there all winter, and there was 925 head of them. They averaged 715 pounds. At 162.98 on the average. Wow. But you know, those cattle can go out and graze and get some cheap gain, and they can cheapen those cattle up this summer. That's a perfect weight to turn out this time of year. Those cattle will come off when, you know, in the heavy nines there, and put a lot of cheap pounds on and cheapen those cattle up, and they will be the kind when they come off of there and ready to go to the feedlot and turn double back flips. But look at this Cattle Market Central Market Report out of Mocan at Butler. Gives some of the other weights of steers. 286 head of 4-weight steers, average 446 at 169.33. 373 head of the 5-weight steers, average 556 at 161.06. 250 head of 6-weight steers at Mocan, 644 pounds on the average and 156.54 on the average. Give you a couple of other individual quotes. Clarinda, Iowa, John Anderson and Frank Hepker up there, 55 head of 912 pound steers, bring 140.85. That would be a lot higher, guys. And just all of a sudden we've got a few empty pens around, and guys are getting back into the market. We've had light runs everywhere, and guys are in the mood to buy a few cattle. Bluegrass Stockyard South, Stanford, Kentucky, 64 head of 835 pound steers, bring 142.75. And I won't talk to you guys for an extra visit there over the Memorial Day holiday. You guys have a great weekend. I'm planning on having one myself, and I'll be back with the weekly summary sometime Monday. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.